Hi, everybody. My name is Mindy Morales-Williams. I'm an assistant professor at the University of Vermont in the Rubenstein School of Environment and Natural Resources. And I'm a limnologist, which means I study lakes. Um, but limnology is an interdisciplinary study of aquatic ecosystems. So within limnology, I also am a phycologist and a biogeochemist, which means as a phycologist, I study algae, community ecology. And as a biogeochemist, I'm interested in how primary production, which algae are responsible for in lakes, drives how elements and nutrients, particularly carbon, cycles through lakes, and how these things are changed or impacted by climate change processes. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about my path to science and how I became interested in ecology and ecosystem science. When I first started undergrad, way back, seems like many years ago, I actually wanted to be a painter. I was interested in art. And so I was applying to art schools, and I was going to visit the Portland College of Art and Design with my dad. So we were going on a road trip from Florida up to Maine, Portland, Maine, to visit this college. And as we were leaving, this was in the 90s, so this was before things were all digitized. So I had my portfolio of all my artwork. My dad was packing up the car, put it on top of the van, I guess it was a van, put it on top of the van and drove away. And my artwork flew off and we never found it. And so I went to visit the school and I had an interview with, I don't know, an admissions person. And I was like, well, I have no artwork. And they were like, well, you can't apply to this school or you will not be accepted to this school. So I didn't go to art school, which was really disappointing at the time, but looking back, it worked out for the best. And so I didn't really know what I wanted to do with my life. And so I started undergrad at a community college, Miami-Dade Community College in downtown Miami, which is where I'm from. And I went there for a couple years and I wasn't really sure what I wanted to study. But I landed on literature and humanities. And so after I finished Miami-Dade Community College, I transferred to a school called New College, which at that time was part of the University of South Florida. And I was studying Eastern European literature. I thought I wanted to be a poet, but I wasn't really that excited about it. But so at the time, all my roommates there, this was in Sarasota, Florida, all my roommates were marine biology majors. And so I'd go out and help them with their field work. And I saw some really cool things in the bay there off the coast of Florida. There were red tides, which is when there's like massive fish kills. And there were also these bioluminescent blooms in the bay. So you could go swimming at night and the water glows like bright blue. It's really cool if you haven't seen it before. And so both of these things are caused by a type of microalgae, a marine algae called a dinoflagellate. And so I became really interested and fascinated with how these little microscopic organisms can impact whole ecosystems and ecosystem function. And so I was pretty sure that was what I wanted to study. And so here I am, a literature major. I have not really any background in the sciences. And I went to my advisor and I'm like, I want to change my major. And he was like, great, okay, let's put you in second semester organic chemistry, because that was what was being offered the next semester. And, you know, I don't know how many of the general classes you've all taken yet, but it's not a trivial thing as a literature major to jump into second semester organic chemistry. And so that's what I did. It didn't go well. I didn't do well in organic chem, not having taken any kind of general chem or first semester organic chemistry. And so I took a break from school for many years, I think almost 7 years. And I worked, I waited tables, I was a receptionist, I worked in retail for many years. So I was a store manager and did like visual merchandising for a couple large retail chains, United Killers of Benetton, which is probably well before your time, and Guess Clothing. So I was a person that goes and designs the windows and sets up the store. And that was my main career, and I was doing fine. And, you know, it was all right, but wasn't very fulfilling. And so when I was able to, when I could kind of afford it, I decided to go back to undergrad when I was about 30 years old, was when I started undergrad again. And again, I was sure I wanted to study aquatic science. And so I went back and I majored in biology. And from that point, I was on a pretty straight trajectory to my current career. I took a limnology class with an amazing scientist named Evelyn Geyser, who is an ecosystem science limnologist, phytoplankton ecologist also, who was just an incredible mentor for me and really gave me lots of good advice on this career path. And so this was at Florida International University in Miami, which is where I went to undergrad. Worked in several different labs there, mostly volunteer, until finally one lab understood that I have to pay to live and pay for housing and whatnot. And so that individual agreed to pay me a normal wage. And so I was able to leave my retail job and work full-time in a lab to help pay my way through school. And that lab worked in the Florida Everglades. I learned a lot about Everglades wetland hydrology, macroinvertebrate ecology, stuff like that. And so that was really a fun place to work. And so from Florida International University, once I was done there, I did a master's at Trent University in Ontario. And there I studied trace metal cycling and organic matter quality in lake ecosystems. And then after that, I did my PhD at Iowa State University in environmental science and ecology and evolutionary biology, where I looked at triggers and maintenance of cyanobacteria blooms in very eutrophic lakes, probably very similar to the type you have there in Missouri. They're pretty close by. And then I did a postdoc at University of Minnesota, again, looking at organic matter quality, microbial community dynamics. And finally, I landed here at University of Vermont. And that whole path kind of overlapped. So at each step in my career, I was still finishing up the last step. And so it's just been kind of a blur. But really, really great and rewarding. So I am, let's see, really like to hike. So here in Vermont, it's really beautiful. It's fall right now. Lots of nice hiking trails. I used to do some rock climbing, and I mentioned I wanted to be an artist, so I still do some drawing and painting and stuff like that. Nothing too super exciting. But yeah, I think that about sums me up. So I hope you all are staying safe and healthy, and have a great week. Thank you very much.